Well, hello there, friend. Welcome back to the Construction Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Bradley Hartmann. Over the past few weeks, I have found myself with multiple individuals at different levels in their respective organizations. In one case, a CEO, in one case, a VP of operations, and the other one, a sales leader. And we end up talking about the same challenge. And that is ultimately about a business case, on how we present a business case to make a decision, to drive change, to do something different, or continue doing something specific. And the more conversations that I was involved in, I realized ultimately what we're talking about is how we persuade. And it had me thinking about the specific story from early on in my career being a business owner myself. So today's episode is the only 3 words that matter in business. How a lost sale taught me the most profitable lesson I still use today. As always, thank you for listening. It was June of 2013, and the executive's corner office was exactly as I imagined it. Sprawling footprint, postcard perfect view of Lake Michigan. Mahogany finishes nearly everywhere except the ceiling, and dozens of trophies and awards lined the custom-built shelves. Now, these weren't just symbols of status for the executive of this billion-dollar commercial construction firm he led. No, they served a purpose too. Acting as bookends, these artifacts framed clusters of business books meant to amplify the aura of his Wharton MBA diploma hanging on the wall. And yep, as I suspected, the Clemson University mini helmet was up on the shelf in the top left next to an old, yellowed Pittsburgh Steelers terrible towel. It had taken me nearly 6 months to get here. I had already met with 2 construction managers, 2 project managers, 1 project executive, and 3 regional vice presidents. That's the gauntlet a salesperson must traverse to meet with a leader like this. He was at least 6'4" and only slightly heavier than his defensive end playing weight of 225. This guy walked like an athlete. Lumbering around his desk to shake my hand, his movement carried a sense of grace. This was the guy, and this was the place that had to mark my turn around the proverbial corner. It had to. My 2-year window to make my new venture work was inching closed like a double hung with a faulty balance. While working at Pulte Homes years prior, I had stumbled into my calling. Though my title was in purchasing, my real job became bridging the communication gap between the folks in the ivory tower, buying materials and labor from Pulte headquarters, and the people out in the field actually building the homes. My manager's leadership style fell somewhere between empowerment and complete abdication. Well, just fix it, he said, and then he largely ignored me. So I dove in, writing content, designing training courses, and speaking in front of live audiences of my peers. And I loved every minute of it. But when the Great Recession hit, I was back behind a desk, staring at 3 monitors filled with pivot tables, hammering home lower prices with the handful of contractors and suppliers still standing. I decided then and there to go out on my own. My startup would be built around those activities, writing, designing, and speaking, that continuously gave me more energy and excitement. My commitment to my wife was that within 2 years, the business would be able to start paying its sole employee, me. With a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old at home, our family was struggling to make ends meet on my wife's single paycheck from the city of Chicago. Now, my wife never said it out loud, but we both knew the truth. We weren't 2 years in, we were 4. To give my dream a real shot, we had already completed a 2-year, self-imposed austerity plan before launching the company in August of 2011. The goal, prescient in hindsight, was to save enough to keep the business running for 2 full years, even if it didn't earn a dime. Year 1 revenue totaled $24,000. Year 2 was on pace for $30,000. I could barely cover our monthly software subscriptions. I dreaded the end of the month, knowing the few $1,000s I scratched out of the dirt with my fingernails would be drained the moment the calendar flipped. I had plausible reasons to be confident, though. The meetings with this COO's underlings were fun. Great guys, all of them. And I'm ashamed to admit that I said to myself, when my turd of a business does go bust, I can imagine myself working here. The executive told me to sit at one of the 2 deep burgundy chairs in front of his giant desk overlooking Lake Michigan. He dove in before I fully descended into it. He was short on time, he said, because he was going to the Cubs game. First pitch is at 1:05. Sure, gotta see your hometown Pirates when they're in town, I said. This caught him off guard. How'd you know that? He said. I had spent hours researching this titan of industry online. I then interviewed 4 other people that had worked for him or alongside him. Once I learned he had played football at Clemson, my confidence soared. Come on, I said. I'm a professional. I wouldn't enter your office without doing my homework. And being a Bears fan, I know all about your connections to Donnell Wolford and Chris Gardocki. He froze. Gardocki, he whispered, was my roommate freshman year. Now, I didn't know that, but he didn't know that I didn't know that. So I smiled and nodded yes, of course. We bounced from Clemson to the Steelers and his terrible towel, which he waved during the playoff loss to the Buffalo Bills in 1992, to the Pirates. 45 minutes later, he announced that we must stop talking sports because we could go on like this all day. Bradley, this just confirms what everyone has been telling me, he said. Everyone likes you. They want to hire you. Great, I said. Let's make it happen. Sign the proposal and let's get... Oh, no. He cut in. My guys want to hire you. Full time. Train you up as a project manager. Now it was my turn to freeze. Bradley, my team and I spent 30 minutes yesterday trying to figure out how we could give you money. But your proposal? It ain't it. Nausea bubbled. Here's the deal, he said. Only 3 verbs matter in sales. Make, find, and save. We want to work with you, but you haven't made an offer that helps us make, find, or save money on our top priorities. Now, I blacked out after that. Somehow I made it out of that office, out of the city, and navigated my Honda Accord with 180,000 miles back into my driveway. Once I got there, I just sat in the car for who knows how long. Then, 2 things happened. First, I borrowed money from my brother to keep the dream going just a bit longer. And second, I got vulnerable and asked my friends who were builders for help. I laid everything out for them, what I was doing, how I was planning, what I was saying, and it didn't take long for my friends to spot the problem. Quit trying to sell and just be useful. One close friend shared this little piece of advice with me. He said, hey, once potential clients tell you the biggest pain points on the job, then just drill into that like a dentist. Another one said, just do the back of the napkin math to figure out how much it's costing them. Because if they're anything like me, they probably don't even want to know how much money their biggest issues are costing them. If you can help them fix those, well, then you're home free. Slowly, I began to connect the dots between my friend's advice and the executive's gift of make, find, or save money. They were all saying the same thing. Quit selling and just be useful. Find the pain and then ask better questions. Do the math for them. And then develop a proposal that makes, finds, or save money. It wasn't enough to be liked. It wasn't enough to work hard. It wasn't enough to be prepared. It wasn't enough to know oodles of Clemson football trivia. If I couldn't help this guy and his team make, find, or save money on priorities and initiatives that mattered most to him and his team at this moment in time, I may be likable, but also useless. At best, I was an entertaining diversion, a distraction to the business of the day. Now, fast forward a decade, and we've helped hundreds of construction companies and suppliers improve their businesses. I paid my brother back and in January of 2014, put myself on a monthly draw. It scared the hell out of me, but my wife and I were cautiously watching our monthly revenues methodically plod northward, from 4 digits to 5, and then later 6. I've learned a lot about myself and humans in general, but above all I've learned is the truth of helping our clients make, find, and save money. People buy when they are in pain or want to grow. A seller's job is to identify the pains and or the opportunities for growth that matter most to them at this moment in time and convert those into a simple, clear-cut partnership that helps them make, find, or save money. The better you can quantify this making, finding, and saving of money, the more persuasive you'll be. Now, if you're listening to this saying, well, Hartmann, I'm not really a seller. I'm not sure if this whole make, find, and save money thing applies to me. I would encourage you to reframe the thought because every single person, hopefully, you think of yourself as a leader. And what's the definition of a leader? Well, it's someone who can make situations and people better. And that requires change. And change requires ideas and influence and persuasion. It requires someone to sell an idea, sell a vision of a better future. Everybody is selling something. Now, while sales reps must focus on make, find, and save, sales managers must heed the advice of Mike Weinberg and focus on 3 different verbs: create, advance, and close. That is, sales managers must be constantly coaching their sales reps and holding them accountable to their goals by asking these questions. What new opportunities have you created this month? What new opportunities have you advanced this month? And what new opportunities have you closed this month? So again, for everyone selling something, the 3 verbs are make, find, and save, and we're talking about money. For sales managers and sales leaders, the 3 verbs we're focusing on are really create, advance, and close. And while yes, we're focusing on money, I would argue you're really focusing on those new opportunities. Now, I never made it back into that executive's office. Never closed a sale with that company. But I think about the gift of those 3 verbs every single day. Author Austin Kleon said it best. Lots of people want to be the noun without doing the verb. I wanted to be a great salesperson, a consultative seller, someone likable, useful, and insightful. I just didn't know how. Now, I do. If you help clients make, find, or save money at the moment in time that matters most to them, you can pick just about any noun you want to be. One tangible thing you can do today to deliver value and better position yourself to make a sale is this. Narrow your questions to focus in on the biggest challenges your prospect faces, regardless of what you're selling. Make it about them, not you. Ask them a question like, what frustrates you most about your job right now? Then ask them why if they know why that frustration exists in the first place. Then, once you clearly understand the biggest pain points, ask more questions. How often does that happen? Who all does it affect? What do they say about it? How much does that cost them? Then what happens next? If the subs weren't dealing with this, what else would they be doing? If you weren't dealing with this, what else would you be doing? The goal here is to quantify through back-of-the-napkin math how much this challenge is costing them every week, month, and year. You can then confidently say, well, based on what you shared with me, it appears you've got a $500,000 problem. I have a few suggestions on how we can solve, eliminate, or minimize that. Want to talk about that? Then sprinkle in some likability, hard work, preparation, and maybe even Clemson football trivia? Yeah, it didn't work for me, but it might for you. Thank you for listening, and keep in mind, you as a leader, by definition, make people and situations better. And the way to do that is to improve your ability to persuade, to influence, to build and deliver a business case. And to do that, keep in mind these 3 verbs: make, find, or save. I wish you good luck, and remember, you are owed nothing. Deliver value first. Make it a great week.